7 million people have watched the video. You might be one of them. A middle-aged man and a young blonde woman, both naked under hotel sheets, being wheeled out of the embassy suites on separate gurneys, but they're not separate. They're still attached to each other, bonded, screaming. The woman is crying, mascara running in black rivers down her face. "Get me off him, it burns. Oh God, make it stop." The man, my husband of 23 years, is screaming too. "Help us, someone help us. We can't separate." The caption on the most viral version reads, "Karma is real. Father-in-law and daughter-in-law caught cheating, literally stuck together. Hotel manager called 911. Hashtag justice, hashtag cheaters, hashtag Portland." What the video doesn't show is me standing in a hospital supply room 3 days earlier at 2 a.m., my nurse's hands perfectly steady as I mixed industrial-grade medical adhesive with pure capsaicin cream. What it doesn't show is the moment I carefully refilled 3 bottles of personal lubricant with a mixture designed to bond flesh to flesh in seconds and burn like hellfire for hours. What it doesn't show is the 2 years of messages I discovered planning to have me institutionalized, to steal everything I'd spent 23 years building, to frame my son for crimes he didn't commit. What it doesn't show is that the young blonde woman wasn't some random mistress. She was my daughter-in-law, married to the abandoned 6-year-old boy I'd raised as my own son. And together with my husband and his vengeful ex-wife, they were conspiring to destroy our entire family. My name is Celestine Nguyen, and I'm the reason that video exists. I'm a 51-year-old nurse who saved lives for 23 years. I'm a mother who raised 3 children. I'm a woman who believed in kindness and second chances and doing the right thing. And I'm the person who made sure that when they tried to erase me, the whole world watched them burn instead. If you're listening from anywhere, New York, London, a small town where everyone knows your secrets, I want you to hear this story. Not the viral video version, the real version. The one that started 23 years ago, when I saved a broken man and his abandoned son. The one that involves conspiracy, embezzlement, fake wills, and 3 people who underestimated exactly how far a mother will go to protect her family. Subscribe. Comment where you're listening from. Share this if you've ever had to choose between being destroyed and fighting back. Because by the end of this story, you're going to understand exactly why I did what I did, and you might even wonder if you'd have the courage to do the same. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the night I met a janitor with kind eyes and a little boy who kept birthday cards from a mother who never called. It was 23 years ago, in Portland, Oregon. I met Donovan Merrick on the pediatric wing on a February night when the rain hammered the windows like it was trying to wash the whole city into the Willamette River. I was 28 then, never married to my work instead. My parents had fled Vietnam with nothing, rebuilt their lives in a Portland refugee community, and taught me that dignity lived in honest labor, not in the fairy tales other girls chased. Donovan was pushing a mop bucket down the hallway, his janitor's uniform spotted with bleach stains. He was 35, but looked older. Life had carved deep lines around his eyes. But those eyes stopped me. Dark, intelligent eyes in a face marked by suffering yet still capable of warmth. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said, moving aside so I could pass. I noticed the textbook wedged under his arm. Studying? He looked embarrassed. Business management textbook from community college. It's probably stupid. A janitor thinking he can... It's not stupid. It's brave. That's how it began. Coffee in the cafeteria during shift breaks, conversations that stretched past dawn. He told me everything. About Evangeline, his first wife, a beautiful woman from a wealthy Portland family who'd married him when he was a promising young accounting student at Portland State University. About Dashiell, their son, born when Donovan was 26, still 2 semesters away from finishing his degree. Then came the accident. A drunk driver, a shattered spine, 18 months of recovery. Donovan had to drop out of school. The medical bills swallowed their savings. He couldn't sit for long periods, couldn't finish his degree, couldn't pursue the accounting career he'd been building toward. And Evangeline, beautiful, sophisticated Evangeline, she watched their life crumble and made her choice. I came home from physical therapy one day, Donovan told me, his voice hollow with old pain. Dashiell was 6. There was a note on the kitchen table and divorce papers. She wrote, "I didn't sign up for this. Richard can give me the life I deserve." Richard was a senior partner at an accounting firm, the firm where I'd hoped to work after graduation. Rich, healthy, successful, everything I'd never be now. She moved to San Francisco with him that same week, left Dashiell with me in our empty apartment, didn't even take her clothes, like she wanted to erase that life completely. My heart broke for him, for little Dashiell, 6 years old and abandoned by his mother. "Does she ever see him?" I asked. His hands shook around his coffee cup. "Birthday cards, maybe, when she remembers. He keeps them all in a shoebox under his bed. He won't talk about her, but he keeps every card. I didn't know it then, but that story was a lie. Not all of it. Dashiell was abandoned. The accident was real. Evangeline did leave, but the reason she left, that was the first of many lies Donovan would tell me over the next 23 years. Lies I wouldn't discover until it was almost too late. 6 months later, I moved into their small apartment in Southeast Portland. Dashiell was 7 then, a quiet boy with his father's dark eyes and his mother's delicate features. He watched me with cautious suspicion, this stranger invading their masculine space, changing things, cooking meals that didn't come from boxes. "I don't need a new mom," he told me one night, his small jaw set with determination. I knelt beside him, eye to eye. "Good, because I'm not trying to be your mom. Your mom is your mom, no matter what. But maybe I could just be Celeste, someone who cares about you and wants to help." He thought about it for a long moment. Then, "Can you make grilled cheese?" "The best in Portland." "Okay then, you can stay." And just like that, I became a mother. Not through biology or legal adoption, but through the simple act of showing up. Day after day, year after year. Being there when he had nightmares about his mother never coming back. Being there for scraped knees and school plays, and the awkward teenage years when he was too tall for his body and too kind for the world. I didn't know that 23 years later, that same little boy, grown into a firefighter, a hero who saved people from burning buildings, would walk into a hospital emergency room and see his father and his wife bonded together in the most horrific, public way imaginable. I didn't know that my love for him would eventually require me to become someone I never thought I could be. But that night, watching him carefully arrange his mother's birthday cards in that shoebox, I made a promise. I would never leave him, no matter what, no matter the cost. It's a promise that would eventually lead me to that hospital supply room at 2 a.m., mixing chemicals that would destroy 2 people and save my family. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me show you how 23 years of love can turn into one night of calculated revenge. Donovan and I married quietly at City Hall 6 months later. My parents came, blessing us with tears in their eyes. Donovan's few friends from the janitorial staff showed up, and Dashiell, 8 years old in a clip-on tie, stood beside his father and took my hand without being asked. "Take care of him," Dashiell whispered to me. "Dad tries to act tough, but he still cries sometimes at night. I hear him." That's when I knew I hadn't just married Donovan. I'd married Dashiell, too. This solemn little boy who already understood more about loyalty and pain than most adults would ever learn. Those early years were hard but beautiful. I worked double shifts at the hospital while Donovan attended classes. He dropped out with only 2 semesters left, and I encouraged him to finish. "You were so close," I told him. "Don't let the accident take your future, too." It took him 3 years to complete those final courses. The pain made it hard to sit through lectures. The medications made it hard to focus, but he did it. I helped him study, quizzed him before exams, proofread every paper he wrote. When he wanted to give up, and he did many times, I reminded him why he'd started. For Dashiell, for us, for the future we were building together. He graduated with his bachelor's degree in accounting, but entry-level accounting positions required long hours of desk work that his back couldn't handle. So he pivoted, used his degree to move into facilities management, where he could supervise others, work on his feet, use his analytical skills without being chained to a desk. 3 years later, with my encouragement and financial support, he completed an MBA program at Portland State University. I was there at every graduation, cheering louder than anyone, watching the broken man transform into a professional, into a facilities director at a major healthcare corporation. "I couldn't have done any of this without you," he told me the night he got his first management position. "You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." "That's what love does," I said. "It sees potential even in ruins." We had 2 daughters after that. Sloan arrived when I was 32, and then Juniper 2 years later. Donovan worked his way up to regional facilities director. I'd become a charge nurse in the ER. We bought a small house in the Selwood neighborhood, with a maple tree in the front yard and enough bedrooms for our growing family. Dashiell loved his sisters with a fierceness that sometimes worried me. He was protective beyond reason, checking their rooms at night, walking them to school even when his friends made fun of him. "They're not going to be left," he told me once. "Not like I was." "Oh, sweetheart." I pulled him into a hug. He was 15 then, tall and gangly. "You weren't left because of anything you did wrong." Doesn't matter why. Still hurts the same. The years passed like pages in a book you can't stop reading. Sloan and Juniper grew into beautiful, strong young women. Sloan married a software engineer and moved to Seattle. Juniper married a teacher and stayed in Portland, teaching music at an elementary school 3 blocks from where she grew up. And Dashiell became a firefighter, following some instinct to save people from burning buildings because he couldn't save his own childhood from burning down. He was 29 when he met Bronwyn Ashford at a charity fundraiser for burn victims. Bronwyn was 26, blonde and luminous, with a laugh that sounded like wind chimes and a smile that could make you forget your own name. "She's perfect, isn't she?" Dashiell said to me the night he introduced us at a family dinner. His eyes shone with something I'd never seen before, hope mixed with disbelief, like he couldn't believe someone like her would choose someone like him. "She's very beautiful," I said carefully, watching Bronwyn charm Donovan across the table, her hand resting on Dashiell's arm with practiced possessiveness. "More than that," Dashiell insisted. "She's kind, successful. She chose me, Celestine. Out of everyone, she chose me." There it was, the wound that had never healed. The abandoned 6-year-old still living inside the capable firefighter, still believing he wasn't enough, still shocked when someone stayed. I should have seen it then. The red flags waving like warning flares. The way Bronwyn's laugh changed when Dashiell left the room, going from musical to mechanical. The way her eyes assessed our modest house, our second-hand furniture, our comfortable, unremarkable life. The way she called Dashiell my hero in public, but checked her phone constantly when she thought no one was watching. But I didn't want to see it, because Dashiell was happy, because he'd found someone who made him believe he was worth loving, because after 23 years of being the mother he chose to keep, I wanted his fairy tale to have a happy ending. They married on a June evening at a boutique hotel overlooking the Columbia River Gorge. Bronwyn wore a designer gown that cost more than our monthly mortgage. Her parents, cold, elegant people from Lake Oswego who looked at Donovan and me like we were the help, paid for everything. At the reception, Bronwyn's father made a toast. "To Dashiell, who's marrying above his station. Don't screw it up, son." Everyone laughed. Even Dashiell, though his laugh sounded wrong. Too loud, trying too hard. I watched Bronwyn through the evening, beautiful in her white gown, dancing with Dashiell, then with her father, then with Donovan. She danced with Donovan for a long time, her head tilted back, laughing at something he said. Donovan came back to our table, flushed, smiling. "She's delightful," he said. "Dashiell is a lucky man." "Yes," I said, "lucky." I wish I trusted that cold spot between my shoulders. That nurse's instinct that can tell when something's wrong before any monitor starts beeping. But I didn't. I smiled, I danced, I welcomed Bronwyn into our family with open arms. God forgive me. The discovery came on a Tuesday morning in October, 3 years after the wedding. I had taken the day off for the first time in months. The hospital had been demanding lately. Back-to-back shifts, staff shortages, the usual chaos. Donovan had also been working strange hours, with his facility management responsibilities across multiple sites. We barely saw each other anymore, passing like strangers in our own home, exchanging tired smiles and promises to catch up soon. I decided to surprise him. I drove to his favorite Vietnamese restaurant on Division Street and picked up pho. The beef pho with extra herbs that he loved, the one that reminded him of the first meal I cooked for him and Dashiell all those years ago. When I got home, the house was empty. Donovan's car was gone, but his phone sat on the kitchen counter, plugged into the charger. He must have forgotten it in his rush that morning. I set the food containers on the counter and was reaching for bowls when his phone buzzed, then again and again. I wouldn't normally look. I'd never been the jealous, suspicious type. But something about the insistent buzzing made me glance at the screen. The preview showed a message from a contact saved as B. B. Tuesday afternoon? The embassy suites like last time? Can't wait to feel you again, Daddy. Don't forget those special Slimmy Lubes. Daddy. Someone was calling my husband Daddy and telling him to bring the special lubes. My hands shook as I picked up the phone. I knew his passcode. We'd never hidden anything from each other, or so I thought. The messages loaded and my world collapsed. B, when is that self-righteous nurse working? I'm so tired of sneaking around. After we take everything from her, I'm done pretending to care about that pathetic son of yours. Donovan, soon, baby, soon. I have successfully updated the will like you asked. She gets nothing, the girls get nothing, Dashiell gets nothing. Everything comes to you when I'm gone. B. What reasons did you give for cutting them out? Donovan, for Celestine, I wrote that she manipulated me during my vulnerable time after my accident and entrapped me into a marriage I never truly wanted. For the girls, I wrote that they're not my biological children and therefore not entitled to assets I've built. For Dashiell, that he's been an emotional and financial drain since childhood, and his mother's abandonment proves the family line is defective. God, that's perfect. Vicious. Especially the part about the girls not being yours. We both know that's a lie, but it'll destroy them to read it. I love it when you're cruel. It makes me wet. I made it to the bathroom before I vomited, my body rejecting the poison of what I'd just read before my mind could process it. When I could stand again, when I could breathe, I went back. I needed to know everything. I needed to see the depth of this betrayal before it swallowed me whole. I sat at that kitchen table for 3 hours, reading 2 years of messages. My hands moved mechanically, screenshotting, forwarding everything to my own email, creating a record of the destruction of my life. They'd started the affair 6 months after the wedding, at a family barbecue while Dashiell was inside getting more ice. Donovan helped Bronwyn with her phone. She dropped it, the screen cracked. Their fingers touched. They laughed. Something shifted. The first messages were almost innocent, then flirtatious, then explicit. Photos I will never be able to unsee. Videos filmed in hotel rooms, in our guest room when Dashiell was on shift. Once, God help me, in the bed I shared with Donovan. But it wasn't just lust, it was conspiracy. Donovan, 6 months ago. Celestine's retirement account has almost $400,000. Plus, the house is worth at least $600K now. The life insurance policy is $750,000. When it's all liquidated, we'll have close to $2 million. Bronwyn, not enough for what I'm sacrificing. I want more. What about those investment accounts you mentioned? Donovan, working on it. I've been moving money slowly so she doesn't notice. Another 6 months and we'll have everything positioned. Then we file for divorce, claim she's mentally unstable. I've been documenting incidents of her forgetfulness and confusion. With my testimony and a sympathetic doctor, we can get her committed. Once she's declared incompetent, I get full control of everything. Bronwyn. And Dashiell? He'll defend her. Donovan. Let him try. I've got backup plans. Some discrepancies in the firehouse equipment logs that could point to him if anyone looked closely enough. If he becomes a problem, we make him a suspect in an investigation. Ruin his career. He'll be too busy defending himself to help his precious Celestine. Bronwyn. You're so smart, Daddy. So devious. This is why I love you. Come over tonight. I need you. My vision blurred. They weren't just planning to divorce me. They were planning to destroy me completely, commit me to an institution, steal everything I'd worked for, frame Dashiell if he tried to help me, and that will, that vicious, cruel will that painted me as a manipulator, my daughters as undeserving imposters who weren't even his biological children, a blatant lie designed to wound them to their course. I needed more evidence, something beyond just messages. I needed proof of their meetings, their conspiracy, everything. I walked to the garage on shaking legs. Donovan's F-150 sat there, ordinary and innocent looking. But I knew he kept an emergency bag in the back. He'd always been paranoid about being prepared for unexpected overnight trips. I opened the truck door and found the black duffel bag behind the driver's seat. Inside, a change of clothes, toiletries, and wrapped in a towel at the bottom, 3 bottles of personal lubricant, a box of condoms, cologne, and breath mints. The lubricant bottles were all the same brand, Elysium Premium, vanilla-scented, in distinctive amber bottles. Each bottle was about half empty, proof of frequent use. I photographed everything with my phone, my hands steady now, my mind shifting into that cold, clinical nurse mode, where emotion gets locked away and only efficiency remains. I put everything back exactly as I'd found it and returned to the house. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I'd learned from Vietnamese family stories about patience, about how the best revenge isn't hot, it's ice cold. It waits. It plans. It strikes when the enemy thinks they've already won. Instead, I went to work. Real work. First, I called Thalia Kowalski, a lawyer from my parents' community who'd made a career of protecting immigrant women from predatory divorces. I sent her everything, every message, every photo, every detail of their conspiracy to defraud me, to institutionalize me with a fake diagnosis, to frame Dashiell. Celestine, Thalia said, after reviewing it all, her voice shaking with rage. This isn't just adultery. This is criminal conspiracy, attempted fraud, elder abuse planning. We can bury them both and send them to prison. Not yet. I need more. I need ironclad proof of everything. Next, I hired a private investigator, a retired Portland police detective named Rowena Kim, who specialized in infidelity and fraud cases. I need documentation, I told her. Photos, videos, financial records, everything. I paused, then added something that had been nagging at me since I'd started reading the messages. There's something else. Donovan's first wife, Evangeline, she abandoned him and Dashiell 23 years ago. For 23 years, I've believed the story Donovan told me, that she left because of his accident, because she couldn't handle being married to someone disabled, because she wanted wealth and comfort over love. Rowena tilted her head, studying me. But now you're not sure? Now I'm wondering if the man who could lie to me so convincingly for 2 years, who could conspire to have me institutionalized, who could betray his own son, I'm wondering if that man was honest about why his first wife left. I looked down at my hands. What if she didn't abandon Dashiell because she was selfish? What if she left because Donovan was already this person back then? What if there was infidelity, betrayal, things he never told me? You want me to investigate the first wife? Yes. Find out why she really left. Was Donovan faithful to her? Was he the victim he claimed to be? Or was he already cheating, already plotting? I need to know if the foundation of our entire relationship was built on his lies about his past. I swallowed hard. And Rowena, if it turns out Evangeline left for legitimate reasons, if she was the victim and not the villain, I need to know that too. Because I've spent 23 years agreeing with Dashiell that his mother abandoned him. If I was wrong, if we were both manipulated by Donovan's version of history, then I need to try to make that right. Dashiell deserves to know his real mother, if she's not the monster we thought she was. He deserves the chance to heal that relationship if there's anything worth healing.
Rowena nodded slowly. That's brave, Celestine. Most people wouldn't want to discover they'd been wrong about something so fundamental. I spent 23 years being Dashiell's mother because he needed one. But if his real mother is out there, if she left for reasons that weren't about abandoning her son, then he deserves to know the truth. All of it. Not just the truth about Donovan and Bronwyn, but the truth about his entire childhood. 2 weeks later, Rowena delivered a folder so thick it could have been a novel. Inside were photos of Donovan and Bronwyn at the Embassy Suites, the Heathman Hotel, even a cheap motel on 82nd Avenue. Videos of them entering and leaving, kissing in parking lots, his hand on his lower back, her head thrown back laughing. But the most damning evidence was what Rowena had found about Evangeline. You were right to question Donovan's story, Rowena said, spreading documents across my kitchen table. Evangeline Merrick, now Evangeline Hartford, didn't leave because of the accident. She left because she caught Donovan cheating with her younger sister, her pregnant younger sister. The room tilted. What? Donovan was having an affair with Evangeline's sister, Rebecca, while Evangeline was pregnant with Dashiell. It continued after Dashiell was born. When Evangeline found out Dashiell was about 5, she tried to make it work, went to counseling, gave him another chance. Then the accident happened.
Rowena pulled out more documents. After the accident, while Donovan was in recovery, Rebecca, who by then had her own child, started coming around again. To help, she told Evangeline. But Evangeline came home early from work one day and found them together. In her bed, with 6-year-old Dashiell in the next room. I felt sick. So she left. And Donovan spun it into a story about a shallow woman who couldn't handle his disability. He made himself the victim. But Celestine, there's more. Evangeline has been in contact with Bronwyn for over a year. My blood ran cold. What? Rowena showed me printed documents, social media messages, even recorded phone calls. They found each other through a private Facebook group, one of those women reclaiming their power groups that's actually a forum for bitter ex-wives to plot revenge. Look at this. Evangeline and an email to Bronwyn. I gave that cheater the best years of my life. I left him with our son because I knew what he'd do to that boy if I took him, use him as leverage, poison him against me. But I deserve compensation for the trauma of being married to someone so manipulative. When you're done destroying the nurse and taking everything, we split it 50-40. You get 60 for doing the active work. I get 40 for consulting and for my years of suffering. Bronwyn. Agreed. And what about Dashiell, your son? Evangeline. He stopped being my son when he chose that Vietnamese woman over me. When I tried to reconnect 5 years ago, he wouldn't even take my calls. He deserves everything that's coming. Honestly, if the frame-up works and he loses his career, even better. Maybe it'll teach him that loyalty to the wrong people has consequences. Bronwyn.
He might hurt himself if it all comes crashing down. The abandonment issues run deep. Evangeline. Then that's his choice. One less person to split inheritance with if Donovan ever actually dies. Though knowing him, he'll outlive us all out of spite. I stared at the emails until the words blurred. My plan to reconcile Dashiell with his mother, the hope that maybe she'd left for good reasons, that maybe she could be part of his healing, it shattered like glass. She's as bad as he is, I whispered. Maybe worse. She left to protect herself, but then she spent 23 years resenting the son she left behind, and now she's conspiring to destroy him. There's more, Rowena said quietly. She handed me financial documents. Donovan has been embezzling from his company. Small amounts at first, but over the past year, he's siphoned off nearly $180,000. He's hidden it in offshore accounts registered to shell companies. I have proof that Bronwyn helped him set up the accounts. Her pharmaceutical sales job gave her connections to financial advisors who specialize in this kind of thing. Why would he embezzle when he already has a good salary? Because he's planning to disappear. After the divorce, after they've taken everything from you, after Dashiell is neutralized, he and Bronwyn are planning to leave the country. There are emails about property in Costa Rica. They're building an exit strategy. My chest felt tight. This wasn't just betrayal. This was annihilation. What do you want to do? Rowena asked gently. I looked at the evidence spread across my table. The photos, the emails, the financial crimes, the conspiracy involving 3 people who'd all decided I was worth destroying. Then I looked at my hands. Nurses' hands. Healers' hands. But healing isn't always gentle. Sometimes you have to cut away the infection before it kills the patient. I need one more thing, I told Rowena. I need you to monitor their communications for the next week. I need to know exactly when they're planning to meet next, and I need it to be soon. The opportunity came 6 days later. Dashiell texted the family group chat on Thursday evening. Hey everyone, I've got a 48-hour shift starting Friday morning. Big training exercise. Love you all. I saw his message and felt a pang of love for this good man who had no idea what was about to happen to his world. Minutes later, Bronwyn sent a text to Dashiell that I intercepted through the monitoring software Rowena had helped me install. Baby, I'm so proud of you. I've got that pharmaceutical conference in Eugene this weekend, leaving Friday afternoon. We'll both be busy. Miss you already. Love you so much. Then, within 10 minutes, she texted Donovan. I saw it because of the monitoring software on his phone. Bronwyn said, the idiot bought it completely. And his shift really is 48 hours. I checked with the firehouse schedule he keeps on the fridge. Friday afternoon, Embassy Suites, room 412. I've already reserved it under your name. Donovan texted back, perfect. I'll tell Celestine I have back-to-back site inspections in Salem and Eugene. Won't be home until Saturday night. Bronwyn said, good. And bring the special supplies, Daddy. I need this to be memorable. It's been too long since we've had a whole night together. I read the messages in the hospital's supply room, surrounded by the tools of healing. Then I gathered what I needed for a different kind of procedure. Industrial-grade medical adhesive, the kind used in surgical applications, so strong that skin bonds to skin in seconds, requiring surgical intervention to separate. And pharmaceutical-grade capsaicin cream, pure capsaicin extract, concentrated to levels used for severe nerve pain management, the kind that burns like hellfire from the inside out. I mixed them carefully in a clean container,
The consistency had to be perfect, smooth, slick, viscous enough to pass as lubricant, but deadly in its actual purpose. I tested a small amount on a piece of gauze. Within seconds, the gauze stuck to my gloved finger, and even through the latex, I could feel the heat building. Perfect.
Friday morning, Donovan came downstairs, already dressed, humming as he made coffee. He looked happy, excited, like a man anticipating pleasure instead of a man betraying everything he'd built. "Big day?" I asked, sweetly, pouring myself tea. He had site inspections in Salem and Eugene. He probably won't be back until late Saturday. Don't wait up. "I'll leave dinner in the fridge for when you return," I said, kissing his cheek. He flinched slightly, guilt maybe, or just eagerness to leave, and headed for the garage. I waited 5 minutes, then followed silently. Through the kitchen window, I watched him load his briefcase into the truck, adjust his collar in the side mirror, check his phone, and smile at whatever message appeared. Then he came back inside to use the bathroom. He always did before a long drive, a habit from his recovery days when bathroom access was uncertain. That's when I moved. I slipped into the garage, opened the truck door as quietly as possible, and pulled out the black duffel bag. My hands were steady, clinical, efficient. I'd practiced this in my mind 100 times. The 3 Elysium premium bottles sat wrapped in the towel, each about half empty, their vanilla scent still faint around the caps. I photographed them one final time as evidence, noting the exact level of liquid in each bottle. Then I unscrewed the first cap. I poured out the remaining genuine lubricant into a plastic bag. I'd dispose of it later, far from our house. Then I filled the bottle with my special mixture, leaving a tiny amount of the original lubricant at the very top, just enough to preserve the vanilla scent and maintain the appearance of an untampered product. I matched the fill level exactly to where it had been before, shook it gently to ensure the consistency looked right, and wiped the bottle clean. I repeated the process with the second bottle, then the third. Each bottle looked identical to how it had appeared an hour ago. Same amber color, same vanilla scent from the original lubricant on top. Same fill levels. No one would suspect anything until it was far, far too late. I rewrapped them in the towel, placed them back in the duffel bag exactly as I'd found them, and slipped out of the garage seconds before I heard the bathroom door open inside the house. By the time Donovan walked back to his truck, I was in the kitchen, calmly washing dishes. "Love you," he called out, his voice bright with anticipation. "Love you too," I replied, not turning around. "Drive safe." The garage door rumbled open, then closed. The truck's engine started. And he was gone, driving toward his own destruction, with the weapon I'd planted carefully in his emergency bag. I dried my hands, walked to my bedroom, and lay down. For the first time in 3 weeks, since the morning I'd discovered the messages, I felt something close to peace. Not because I was happy, but because I'd done everything I could to ensure justice. Now all I had to do was wait. At 4:37 p.m., my phone rang. The hospital ID showed on the screen, but it was the emergency dispatch line, not my usual department. "Celestine, it's Ramona at 911 dispatch," said a familiar voice. We'd worked together coordinating emergency responses for years. "We just got a call from the Embassy Suites downtown. 2 people in severe medical distress.
They gave your husband's name as the room registration, and your number was listed as his emergency contact. You might want to get down there." My heart pounded, but I kept my voice confused and concerned. "Medical distress. What kind? Is Donovan hurt?" I can't give specifics over the phone, but police and paramedics are on scene. The situation is unusual. You should come to the hotel first, then possibly to the hospital. "Oh my God, I'm coming right now," I said, injecting panic into my voice. I grabbed my purse and keys, checked my appearance in the mirror, worried wife, not avenging angel, and drove to the embassy suites. The hotel lobby was absolute chaos when I arrived. Police cars filled the parking lot, their lights painting everything red and blue. Paramedics were loading 2 gurneys towards separate ambulances. Hotel staff huddled in corners, whispering frantically. And everywhere, guests were recording on their phones, creating the viral moment that would change everything. But before the ambulances, before I arrived, something else had happened, something that would become part of the legend. A hotel housekeeper named Yolanda, a woman who'd worked at the embassy suites for 15 years, had been making her rounds on the 4th floor around 3:15 p.m. Room 412 was on her list, but the Do Not Disturb sign hung on the handle. She was about to move on when she heard it. Not the sounds of passion. She'd heard plenty of that in her years of service and knew to give those rooms privacy. No, this was different. This was screaming. Raw, terrified, agonized screaming. "Help! Oh God, somebody help us! We can't! We're stuck! It burns! Please!" Yolanda knocked on the door. "Hotel housekeeping? Is everything okay?" The screaming only intensified. A man's voice. "We need help! Please, get someone! Call 911! We can't separate!" A woman's voice. "It's burning! Oh fuck, it's burning so bad! What's happening? Get it off me!" Yolanda used her master key, pushing the door open slowly. "Sir? Ma'am? I'm coming in." The scene that greeted her would become the stuff of hotel employee legend. On the bed, tangled in expensive hotel sheets, were a middle-aged man and a young blonde woman, both completely naked and clearly trying desperately to pull apart from each other. But they couldn't. They were physically attached, bonded together in the most intimate position imaginable, and both of them were screaming in agony. "Help us!" the man sobbed. "Please! We can't! Something's wrong! We're stuck together and it's burning!" The woman was hysterical, tears and mascara streaming down her face. "Get me off him! I can't move! Oh God, it hurts so much!" Yolanda stood frozen for a moment, her brain trying to process what she was seeing. Then her training kicked in. She backed out of the room immediately and pulled out her radio. "Front desk, this is Yolanda on 4th floor. I need you to call 911 right now. Room 412. 2 guests in severe medical distress. They're stuck together. I don't know how, but they can't separate and they're in extreme pain. Send paramedics and probably police. This is serious." Within minutes, the hotel manager arrived, followed quickly by Portland Police and Fire Department paramedics. The first responders who entered room 412 would later say it was the most bizarre call of their careers. The paramedics tried everything they could think of to separate Donovan and Bronwyn without causing further injury, but the medical-grade adhesive had done its job too well. The capsaicin was causing such intense burning pain that both victims were going into shock. "We need to transport them as is," the lead paramedic decided. "This is going to require surgery. Get them covered and let's move." As they were being wheeled through the hotel lobby on gurneys, still attached, still screaming, covered only by thin sheets that did little to hide their predicament,
hotel guests pulled out their phones. Within minutes, videos were being uploaded to every social media platform imaginable. One guest's TikTok video captured the moment perfectly. Two people on stretchers, clearly naked underneath the sheets, clearly attached to each other, both crying and screaming about burning and being stuck. The caption read, "OMG, caught cheating at Embassy Suites. They're literally stuck together. This is wild. Hashtag karma, hashtag cheaters, hashtag Portland." That's when I arrived. I pushed through the crowd, playing the frantic wife perfectly. "That's my husband, Donovan. Oh my God, what happened?" A police officer stopped me. "Ma'am, are you Mrs. Merrick?" "Yes, that's Donovan. What's wrong? Is he hurt?" The officer's face was carefully neutral, but his eyes betrayed him. He was trying not to laugh, trying to maintain professionalism in the face of something absurd. "Ma'am, there's been an incident. Your husband and a young woman were found in a compromising position. They appear to be physically attached. We need to transport them to the hospital." "Attached?" I let my voice rise in confusion. "What do you mean, attached?" Before he could answer, screaming erupted from one of the ambulances. Donovan's voice, hoarse and terrified. "It burns! Oh God, somebody help me! It's burning!" And Bronwyn shrieking like an animal. "Get me off him! I can't move! Oh fuck, it hurts so much!" "Ma'am," the officer said gently, "you should follow them to St. Michael's Hospital. They're going to need emergency surgery." "Surgery?" My hand flew to my mouth. "What happened in there?" The officer glanced at his notes, clearly uncomfortable. Hotel housekeeping reported hearing screaming from room 412. When they used the master T, they found your husband and a young woman in an intimate position. They couldn't separate themselves. It appears some kind of adhesive was involved, and they're both in extreme pain. The paramedics think there's a caustic substance involved as well. Behind him, Yolanda, the housekeeper who discovered them, was talking to another officer, her voice carrying. "I'm telling you, I heard them before all the screaming started, earlier when I was cleaning the room next door. She was saying something about how that stupid nurse wife would never see it coming, how they'd take everything from her and have her locked up. And he was laughing, said something like, 'Celestine signs whatever I put in front of her. She trusts me completely.' They were planning something evil. Then suddenly the screaming started, and I've never heard anything like it in my life." My eyes widened in perfectly performed shock. "A young woman? Who?" The officer checked his notes again. "She had ID in her purse. Bronwyn Ashford Merrick. Ring any bells?" I let myself stumble backward. Another officer caught my arm. That's my daughter-in-law. My son's wife." The officers exchanged glances. One muttered under his breath, "Jesus Christ." A paramedic I'd worked with, Sterling, a good man with 20 years of experience, approached me with sympathy in his eyes. "Celestine, I didn't realize that was your husband. Look, they need to get to the hospital right away. This is serious. Some kind of medical-grade adhesive and what we think is capsaicin or something similar. They're bonded together in intimate areas, and the burning is severe. We've given them morphine, but it's barely touching the pain." "I'll follow in my car," I whispered, pressing my hand to my mouth as if holding back tears. As I walked to my car, I could hear the chaos continuing behind me. The housekeepers being interviewed by police, the hotel manager apologizing profusely to the other guests, the click and flash of phone cameras as people documented what would become one of the most viral hotel incidents in Portland history. I sat in my car for a moment,
gripping the steering wheel, and allowed myself one small smile. Then I drove to the hospital, where I'd worked for 23 years, preparing for the next act in this carefully orchestrated revelation.
St. Michael's Hospital emergency room, the same ER where I'd worked for 2 decades, had become ground zero for the most spectacular public humiliation Portland had seen in years. Donovan and Bronwyn were wheeled through the ambulance bay, still attached, still screaming, their bodies lopped together in a position that would have been comedic if it weren't so horrifically painful. The capsaicin was doing exactly what I'd designed it to do, creating burning pain that no amount of morphine could fully suppress. And the medical adhesive had bonded skin to skin, tissue to tissue, in the most sensitive places imaginable. The ER exploded with activity. Dr. Whitmore, the chief of emergency medicine, took one look and immediately called for a surgical team. Get OR prep now. This is... Christ almighty, I've never seen anything like this in 30 years. Nurses I'd worked with for years moved efficiently, but I could see the shock in their eyes as they recognized the patients. The whispers started immediately. Is that Celestine's husband? Who's the woman with him? Oh my God, isn't that Dashiell's wife? I stood in the corner of the ER, my face arranged in the expression of a devastated wife. Shock, confusion, dawning horror. Several nurses approached me with sympathy, hugging me, whispering condolences. Dr. Whitmore pulled me aside. Celestine, I'm so sorry you have to see this. We're gonna have to take them to surgery immediately to separate them. The adhesive appears to be medical grade, industrial strength. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. This was deliberate. Who would do such a thing? I whispered, my voice breaking perfectly. Why would anyone... He said, the police will be investigating. But right now, we need to focus on the medical emergency. They're both in excruciating pain, and if we don't separate them soon, there could be permanent damage. Before I could respond, the ER doors burst open with such force they slammed against the walls. Dashiell stood there, still in his firefighter uniform, his face a mask of confusion and growing horror. Someone from the hotel, a guest who'd recognized Bronwyn and thought he should know, had called him saying his wife was being transported to the hospital in some kind of emergency. Mom, he rushed to me, his eyes wild. What happened? They said Bronwyn was hurt, that she was at a hotel with someone. Where is she? Is she okay? His eyes found the trauma bay, where Donovan and Bronwyn were being prepped for emergency surgery. The curtains were partially open. He could see them. His father and his wife, naked under thin sheets, both screaming in agony as nurses tried to stabilize them for transport to the OR. The world seemed to stop. All the noise of the ER, the beeping monitors, the overhead pages, the rushing staff, it all faded into silence as Dashiell's brain tried to process what his eyes were seeing. His face drained of all color. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. His body swayed like a building that had just lost its foundation. Dashiell, I reached for him, but he stumbled backward. No, just that one word. Flat. Dead. Like his soul had evacuated his body in that single moment of understanding. Bronwyn saw him through her pain and panic. Dashiell, baby, please, I can explain. Her voice cracked into a sob. Baby, please, I can explain. Dashiell's head snapped toward her voice, then toward Donovan, who couldn't even look at his son, who turned his face away in shame, even as he screamed from the pain. For a long moment, Dashiell just stood there, his chest heaving, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles were white. Then he pulled out his phone with shaking hands and walked closer to the trauma bay, his face an expressionless mask. He looked at his wife, He looked at his father, and in a voice completely devoid of emotion, he said, "Smile for the camera." He took a photo, then another. Then he turned and walked toward the exit without another word. I started to follow, but Dr. Whitmore caught my arm. "Let him go, Celestine. He needs time. Right now, you need to be here. There are forms to sign, decisions to make." I watched Dashiell's back disappear through the ER doors, his shoulders rigid with the effort of not breaking down in public. I'd spent 3 weeks planning this moment. 3 weeks knowing it would devastate my son. And now watching him walk away, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't the end. This was the beginning. Because what I didn't know, what none of us knew, was that Evangeline had been planning her own revenge. And when the police started investigating who tampered with that lubricant, she would make sure all evidence pointed to me. The courtroom battles that followed sent 3 people to prison, and the judge's ruling destroyed more than just their freedom. Donovan's final letter from his prison cell. It contained a confession that changed everything I thought I knew about that night. Did I go to prison for what I did? Did Dashiell ever speak to me again? Did Evangeline succeed in destroying what was left of our family? Part 2 drops in 24 hours, and I promise you, the truth is darker and more complicated than anything you've imagined. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because the viral video was just the surface. The real story starts now.